Hello, class. We're continuing on with the Civil War. Today we're talking about the Battle of Chancellorsville. So before we get started, make sure you have your textbook. You can open it to page 537. Your notebook is out, and then you have that separate sheet of paper in case you have any questions. If you haven't written down your learning objective, I'll tell it to you right now. It is, I will be able to summarize what occurred at the Battle of Chancellorsville. I will be able to summarize what occurred at the Battle of Chancellorsville. Now remember, we are writing in Cornell. You're going to put the battle title on the left and then all the bullets and information on the right. If at any point you're not done with a slide yet, you can pause the video so you can finish up whatever you need to do, and then we can continue on. So the Battle of Chancellorsville, there's a lot of drama in this battle, and you know how much Miss Johnson loves some drama. So this is going to be a good one, okay? So first off, when did it take place? It took place around April 30th, May 1st to May 6th, 1863, where it took place in Chancellorsville, Virginia. And who won? The Confederates. Okay, so that's going to be a big win for them. If you are not done with the slide, you can pause. Okay, let's get cracking. So first we're going to talk about battle leaders. You remember Burnside, we talked about him in Antietam. He was awesome. Lincoln actually replaces McClellan with Burnside and makes him the leader of the Army of the Potomac. And then after some struggles with, there's going to be a battle called Fredericksburg. We're not going to really touch on that one, but it happens right before this one. Burnside steps down from his position, so Lincoln has to do another switcheroo, and that's how we have General Joseph Hooker, okay? If you can't already tell, there's a lot of lack of consistency in leadership for the Union side. Remember, military strategy, that advantage is definitely the South because they have leaders like Robert E. Lee, who we've heard about a couple of times, and obviously my man Stonewall Jackson. Hooker was recently appointed commander of the Army of the Potomac. He resigns a month after this battle, so it tells you how good this one goes. Lee is kind of head in command, and Stonewall Jackson is also going to be present, and the drama for today is going to involve Stonewall Jackson, so we'll hear what happens. Okay, so Battle of Chancellorsville summary. Let's get right into it. So Lee was guarding the way to the Confederate capital of Richmond. Remember, it was kind of like that whole capture the flag thing with capitals. That's where a lot of a country's money is, power, leaders, resources. So if you can get a hold of their capital, it's usually a shoe-in most times when you're combating against one another via the war. So he is trying to protect the way to Richmond, and he is trying to make sure the Union side does not get near it. So General Hooker has a plan. He put together a plan to attack Lee and force him to retreat. So what was the plan? He was going to take part of his army and sneak up on Lee from one side, and the rest of the army is actually going to be keeping him busy at the front. Okay, so he's going to try to do some sneaky action. Lee's plan he thought that this was a sure plan, an easy dub. It's not going to be, but remember, why is he so confident? Who has more people? Who has more money? Who has more resources? Union, right? Hooker had 130,000 soldiers, and Confederates had 16,000. Okay, that's literally twice the size of Confederate. So you would think we'd be successful, but remember, who wins? Confederate. So let's see what happens. On April 30th, Hooker led his troops to the side of the Confederate army. He thought Lee would retreat at this point. Instead of retreating, Lee attacks Hooker's army at Chancellorsville, Virginia. Now, what did the Confederates do? They split into two. Lee and Jackson split their troops to attack Hooker's army from the side. Lee consistently maneuvered his few forces to keep them from getting overwhelmed by a larger Union army. So the fact of the constant maneuvering and switching up, it kept the Union side on their toes, and it wasn't as much a game of numbers. It was more a game of strategy. So a lot of drama there. The Confederates won this battle. They did not retreat, and they were outnumbered. So honestly, if you think about it, they were totally the underdog in this situation, and yet they are victorious because of what? Military strategy. It's always going to be a huge advantage for them. Now, let's talk drama. I love it. So remember, this battle was multiple days. One of the nights, General Stonewall Jackson, he went out to travel across the battlefields to kind of check on soldiers, check on troops, reinforcements, and to make a strategy for the next day. Wonderful guy. So he is doing this, and he's going and checking the land, and then he comes back to his camp. And remember, it's dark, it's scary, you're in the middle of a war. One of his troops, his own troops, thought he was Union cavalry who was sneaking up on the camp and shot him in the arm. Imagine being that guy, right? Shooting your own boss in the arm. It was really bad. So poor Jackson had to do what all the other soldiers had to do. He had his arm amputated, and the surgery was considered a success, but unfortunately he contracted pneumonia while he was recovering and he died. It was bad. So why are we talking about this? Why is this of significance? Number one, remember who wins? It's the Confederates. This is one of the greatest victory for the Confederates because the victory at Chancellorsville gave Lee the confidence that his army could win the North and resulted in his invasion of Pennsylvania. And ultimately, it's going to get us to the point of Gettysburg. Okay? So it's one of their greatest victories. Think about it. They were completely the underdog, and they rocked it. And then another significance, which isn't great for the Confederates, is they lost a wonderful leader, Stonewall Jackson. Rest in peace. He was on the wrong side of history for sure, but you have to give him credit. He was a great military mind. Okay, if you are not done, you may pause. Okay, let's look at the map, right? So what is this map showing us? This is one of the first days at the battlefield, so we got a lot of arrows moving. Remember, blue means Union, red means Confederate. So the Union attacks the Confederates while Jackson moves reinforcements into place to attack the Union right flank. Okay, so the Confederates hold back attacks. The Union eventually retreats back towards the Chancellorsville intersection, and Jackson pursued the retreating troops. So you see here we have forces moving in, and then we got groups on the side. They are constantly maneuvering themselves, and that's what makes them super successful. So rock on. Today you do not have homework aside from notes. So why don't you tell somebody about Chancellorsville, and honestly tell them that fun fact that Stonewall Jackson was killed by one of his own men, because who would, man, I would hate to be that guy. But it is quite entertaining, and the fun part is it's all true and it really happened. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for working so hard. Make sure your notes are beautiful, and we're going to talk about more drama leading up. It's going to get exciting. So yeah, good work today, guys. See ya.